minhag that John was referring to is that whenever one of the grandchildren is born, I come up with a number of possible names that the child could be named without knowing what the child's real name is. And I'm happy to say with all the grandchildren, I am batting 1,000%. I am always wrong, and in this case I am wrong as well. But you know, names in Tanakh were given because they had some meaning, and so here's some of the names I proposed that thankfully they didn't accept. I have to sit over here. The first is inspired by the fact that a mere 18 months ago, John was pontificating about why it's really disadvantageous to get married. It's much better to live a life of a bachelor, your own time, your own food, you do what you want to do, nobody restricts you. At the same time, Deborah, watching all of her younger sisters getting married, is sitting there waiting and waiting for the right person to come along. And lo and behold, they both meet, and before you turn around, they're engaged, and they're married, and now here they have a child. So I figured the name of their first child should be Nisim. The second possibility is whenever we got emails from Deborah, she would say, Deborah Mignaji Bailey. So I figured maybe this first kid is going to have a hyphenated last name, Mignaji Bailey. If that's the case, then probably we want a hyphenated first name. So what would be meaningful? Well, Deborah spends all her time as a senior editor reading. And John spends his time teaching, but his spare time in writing his Divrei Torah. So I figured they'd call their kid Kri Ukativ Mignaji Bailey. Third possibility was from the mystical tradition, gematrias and acronyms. Figured they should call the kid's name Amos. Why? Because he was born right after Yom Kippur, right before Sukkot. Everybody is running around getting the Arbat Minim and getting the Sukkah ready. And so the acronym would be Arbat Minim Vesukkah. Anybody who thinks about it will say, nah, it doesn't work because it almost starts with an ayin and Arbat Minim is aleph. When it comes to gematrias and all that. The fourth possibility actually is a bit of a serious one, and this is sort of a little Dvar Torah as well. As Rabbi Bravender said, today is Zaman of Sukkot, is Zaman Simchatenu, and from the Jewish point of view, a baby boy is really a Jewish baby boy, not on the day of his birth, but the day of his bris, which is today, right in the midst of Sukkot. Now in Sukkot, we read in Devarim that the description of Sukkot in Devarim, V'samachta b'chagecha, very famous phrase everybody knows. They should celebrate or be joyous in your holiday with your family and your workers and the poor people. Ki yivarechecha Hashem Elokecha b'chol tevuatcha v'chol ma'aseh yadecha, because God will bless you with all of your produce and crops and all of the work of your hand. V'hayita ach sameach. And ach sameach is the term only for Sukkot. So we ask ourselves why, and very reasonably, because Sukkot is the fall festival, the fall harvest, where all of the produce has been now collected. It's in full silos. Everybody has their barrels of wine to last over the year until the next season, and wheat and barley and dates for honey, and the farmer is in a state of simcha. So for Sukkot, as opposed to Pesach or Shavuot, where it's the beginning of the season, we don't know how it's going to go. At the end of the season, ach sameach, the farmer and family is very, very happy, satisfied, content with all of the produce in the silo. So it's interesting, it's exactly at that time that the Torah says, Basukot teshvu shivat yomim, that the farmer and his family have to move out of their house. That sense of celebration and security and festivity, they have to move out into a sukkah, which is flimsy sides and a place where you're not protected from the elements, and certainly seems to be the opposite of the simcha that the person feels on Sukkot. In fact, the Torah itself gives us the reason why. Moshe in Parshat Ekev, when he's talking to the people, says, when you go into Eretz Yisrael and you have your farms and you have your houses and you have your produce and you're sitting there all satisfied, then you're going to forget God who gave you all of this. Because if you have everything and you're sameach and you're satisfied, you don't need God. So Moshe is warning the people for just this case, that you're going to forget God and you're going to say, my own hand has done this, as opposed to Sukkot where it says, that it's God who blessed you with your hands, not you yourself. And so the holiday of Sukkot is that combination of the one hand enjoying yourself and celebrating your accomplishments that you really did. You are the one, the farmer is the one who did harvest and plant and seed and has all of this. On the other hand, you have to do it in the context of Sukkot, of the understanding that you're really dependent and grateful to God who's done this. And I looked also, tomorrow we're going to lay in Koheles. In Koheles, if you study Koheles and you really study Koheles, you should be miserable and depressed after reading it. There's no way to get around it. Except when he talks about Simcha. Simcha, in 4 different places, he has something good to say about it. 2 of the places, for example, he says, just say the English, he says, I realize the only thing worthwhile is lismoach, to enjoy oneself and do what's good, to eat and drink and get enjoyment from one's work, mitat Elokim. That's a gift of God. So if somebody enjoys the simple pleasures, eating and drinking is a biblical idiom for simple pleasures of life. If you enjoy the simple pleasures of life, you enjoy your work, it's considered a gift of God. In the second place, and 6 chapters later, he says, eat your bread besimcha, drink your wine in joy, because your actions have long ago been approved by God. God wants you to be besimcha. But then again, just like the Sukkot idea, Kohelet at the very end says, but it all needs to be in context. Sof davar hakol nishma, at the very end, he says, et Elokim yirah, fear God, ve'etz mitzvotav shmor, and keep the mitzvot, kizeh kol adam, because that's what all human existence is, the combination of enjoying oneself, but with Yirat Hashem and Shmirat Mitzvot. And I think this is my blessing, and also the blessing, I think, of all the grandparents, and the brothers and sisters, and the aunts and uncles, that, first of all, Adiel is blessed to be born into a family of parents who are really someach b'chelkam, in the real essence of the word. They're happy with the simple pleasures of life, but in a home of Yirat Shamayim and Shmirat Mitzvot. So our blessing is that he grow and develop within this context to have a life of truly simcha, with Yirat Shamayim and Shmirat Mitzvot, v'chen Yehi Ratzon.
Excuse me, did someone lose a ring? Yes, I was just about to get it. Thank you.
Okay, we're gonna bench now, and then there's dessert if people want to do it after.